Well, good afternoon from Riverton. That's something I don't normally say is good afternoon from Riverton. Um Sorry about the slightly late start there. We were having some streaming issues there that we had to deal with, and I was just getting off the phone with a client too, dealing with some things here. Um anyway, this was a kind of a totally unexpected live stream that I had to set up last night. Just wanted to quickly discuss some current issues that are going on right now that we need to be concerned about, and just wanted to let you know that we are aware of things that are going on and we're working on it. The issue is around application processing. What we have seen, all the broadcasts, all the FM broadcast services went to LMS as of the 25th of September. So on September 25th and afterwards, any application that you filed for a modification, normally what would go on a 318, and also for a license, what would go on a 319 for LPFMs, had to go through LMS. What we have seen in LMS since this since the LPFMs have had to go, since FM has had to go to using LMS, so far we've only seen about 6 modification applications for LPFM granted, and we have seen 0 license applications granted. We have modifications that have been, and these are simple applications that have been waiting for over a month to be processed. Normally, in the CDBS days, this was 7 to 14 days. We are now over a month into processing on these types of applications. And, some of these applications that are being filed are efforts to reduce interference. They're they're applications that are up against statutory deadlines, such as silent stations and such. These are issues that need to be, that the FCC needs to, that they need to address. They've been having a lot of back end problems with LMS apparently. We have quite a few bugs on the front end, especially for LPFM. Obviously, this system was never really tested with LPFM in mind. And they obviously did not run enough test cases or something, because, we know that there's a lot of bugs on the front end. There's certain things we still can't do in LMS. We can't do a single bay antenna and say 0 spacing. There's various bugs. If you go to recnet.com and click, there's a link called LMS bug list. And that's where I'm tracking everything there. I am tracking everything that I'm aware of there. And all these bugs that are listed there, I've already communicated these to staff. Anyway, we're getting ready here for the Radio for People call at 2 o'clock. But I wanted to jump in here before that call to discuss this with you all, and just to give you an update on where things are at. Right now, because of this issue, the FCC obviously still wants you to file, and they still want you to file on time, and they still want you to file these applications. However, if your application for modification involves some kind of interference remediation situation where you're doing this to remediate interference, or if you're up against like a statutory deadline, let's say you're trying to get an application filed so you can move a facility before the 365-day clock on a silent kicks in, please let me know. Contact REC. LPFM at recnet.com. LPFM at recnet.com. This is only for LPFM applicants. please contact me, and I'll evaluate the situation and see if it's something that we need to move forward to staff, because I'm trying to get staff to realize what's going on. I mean, they are aware, just in all fairness, they are aware of the situation. They are aware that there are processing issues, and a lot of this has to do with the LMS design and a lot of issues on the back end of LMS that is just really quirking with the LPFM stations. I mean, we've had, like I said, we've had a few LPFM grants. There was a modification grant as soon as late last week, but they've been really slow, and I mean, they've been quoting 2 to 3 month turnaround times on LPFM applications, and that is not acceptable. So I just wanted to let you know that we are aware that there is some serious application processing issues going on right now at the FCC. They're aware of it. I ask that we don't bombard staff with calls and letters and inquiries and hate mail or whatever. But I just wanted to pass the message along that right now there should be an expectation of a delay on any kind of a application that is filed for modifications, and also too for license. If you file, make sure though that you file your license to cover on time. That's the key thing. As long as you file your license to cover on time, then you'll be okay. I mean, you're covered. You're authorized that whatever you did, is authorized. Now, I know that there are some out there. If you're in a situation though where there's a condition on your permit for conditional, like you can't do program tests without something or other, then let me know, and we'll try to get that PTA worked out. Again, this is only for applications that were filed directly in LMS, as in after September 25th. If your application doesn't have a B, begin with a B, like a BMPF, a BPT or a BPL or a BMPL. As long as it's one of those, it's the 10-digit number with 5 zeros at the beginning, then yeah, that's LMS, and that's something that we would need to look at. Again, don't bombard staff, but at the same time, be advised that there is this delay right now on LMS applications. We'll be posting something in writing soon. This is a follow-up to yesterday's panic post that I made, where I stated that there was about a 2 to 3 month delay on the processing of applications. And I did talk to Albert Schuldner, who's the division chief in the audio division, this morning about the situation, and I just wanted him to realize that we're on top of it, and and I just want to make sure. We are also seeing a delay on processing of non-LPFM applications. I've got a full service client who's been waiting for quite a while now for a license to cover to be granted. And so again, right now staff is being bombarded with the issues of LMS, and there's really I don't think that there's any opportunity for a pullback to CDBS, and right now that probably would not be a smart thing to do. We're already too late into the game. They need to fix these problems, but we need to give them time to fix those problems. And all I got to say is if you've got applications in or you're planning on filing, please be advised that there will be a delay. This also concerns me too because, we're getting ready to push for an NCE window. Now with MB docket 19-3 going to vote next month at the open meeting, we have to then, that is the writing on the wall that there's going to be a filing window for, in this case, NCE, for non-commercial educational stations. And I'm again, this is speculation, though. I just want to make sure y'all realize this is speculation. But the speculation is that we'll have a window. And for the 20 channels below 92, so 88.1 to 101.9, full service, so anywhere from a Class A to a C, so anywhere from 100 to 100,000 watts. That's the type of a window that we're looking at with, in the shadow of 19-3. And I'm pushing for a mid to late 2020 window on that one, mid to late 2020. And then some have asked about an LPFM window. And right now, for the LPFM window, we're still waiting on the docket 19-193. Now, 19-193 is the technical changes to LPFM. We're also asking for reconsideration of the tentatively rejected LP250. However, we're asking for that in the context of a further notice of proposed rulemaking. So that way it doesn't interrupt the window. That would need to come after 19-193. And also, too, since we're only proposing LP250 for upgrades of existing stations that are already licensed, it would only make the window does not have to be dependent on LP250. Not at all. So now keep in mind too, there is a third item out there that could delay both windows. And that's MB docket 17-264. That is the public notice notice of proposed rulemaking. That's a further notice of proposed rulemaking. And once this goes through, then new applicants will not have to take out ads in a newspaper to advise the public that an application has been filed. That's the current rules. LPFM was never asked to follow it, even though they were technically statutorily required to. There was never any rules implemented for LPFM stations for filing public notices. That's going to change with this. And what they're going to be going to is they're going to be going to website public notices. And then there's some whole bunch of issues around that I'm dealing with the FCC. And I think we talked about that on our last talk, so I'm not going to get too much into it. So that's pretty much what we're waiting on right now. And yeah, I will push to hold a window until for NCE 19.3 and 17.264, because 17.264, the way it is right now, it is a barrier to entry for new NCE and LPFM applicants, especially, because, and I think a lot of them are going to false certify and not take out the ads, or not realize that they did have to take out the ads, even though on the full service application that is a check mark on the application to remind them of the 733580 requirements for public notice. We want to see the public notice rules change. And we just went through the comments on that docket. We've got reply comments that are due here in very early December. That first Monday, 2nd of December, I believe, is the reply deadline. The comments were supportive of removing newspapers. The newspaper industry did not comment in this proceeding. In past proceedings on 17.264, they did comment to try to keep those newspaper ads in the paper. But they did not participate, at least in the comment phase of 17.264, we'll see if they come around for the replies. REC did comment in 17264 suggesting that we have the ability to put up separate websites that are just for public notices. And then, and then obviously we plan to reply in this proceeding, and the reply comments will probably be just around the fact that other groups have supported this. There's been no objection so far from the newspaper industry, and unfortunately, we're going to have to go to task with some of the community organizations, such as United Church of Christ and some of the other ones that have come back and wanted these really lengthy over-the-air public notices versus something brief over the air and then sending them to a website. This is the second time I've had to go after that these public service organizations has done something that is anti-LPFM, even though they had our backs in 2011 with the LCRA. They had our backs in 2000 with 9925. I don't know what's happening. Their priorities are changing. What they're not realizing is the things that they're doing are impacting LPFM stations. So, again, this is something that we're on. Just something that we are totally on at this time. So, again, filing windows will eventually happen. Again, there's 3 proceedings that will keep them from LPFM. Also, too, I want to make sure that we get the window in, the sunset in for the low power TV, for the analog low power TV, and that's going to be one of the big controversies on 19193. The big issue on 19193, which is supposedly an LPFM initiative, the big issue is a non-LPFM initiative. It's actually the Channel 6, the dropping of the Channel 6. And a lot of the flutter is going to come from the Franken FM groups, the folks that want to continue to do analog broadcasting on 87.7. And, they've got another proceeding going on where they're wanting the FCC to consider technology that will allow them to insert an analog carrier into a digital television signal, so that way they could still be heard around 87.7. REC's position is that it's time for that industry to go away. We need that we need that to stay channel 6, but even better, we need that spectrum to go from television to radio and open up those 60 channels. 30 or 60, whether you look at just 6 or 6 and 5, and open up that spectrum for broadcast stations, FM broadcast stations. The radios can be on a boat tomorrow. So that's where we're at. Also, too, since we last spoke, the FCC has adopted the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking in MB 19311, which is the AM, digital AM. I am hearing so much and reading so much garbage on this one in the Facebook groups, especially in the Part 15 groups. It's the death of Part 15 radio. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this is the death of Part 15 radio. No, it's not. There are problems with digital AM. And we'll be bringing those up in comments. We're still doing more research on it. But I'm having a very hard time with a few things on this. And that is in a digital in a digital co-channel environment. We have a lot of Class D stations out there that are running minimal power at night. And the digital to analog interference is something that I feel still needs to be addressed. And I don't think that the few tests that they've done in the past is enough. And honestly, I don't know how they can test this. And unless somebody was to spend a ton of money and let these stations go experimental, and so that way we can look at certain situations, like a Class D sitting on a Class A channel, and the Class A goes digital. That's one of the biggest fears I'm hearing out there, is what's going to happen to all these Class D stations. Because, I mean, yeah, they get occasional crosstalk, but now it's going to be kind of like a digital hash that they're going to be hearing on channel. Now, this is not hybrid. We're not talking about hybrid here. We're talking about pure MA3 digital. How's that going to work out? My other concern is, how's this going to work out between two Class C stations on co-channel? I mean, these were stations that were originally spaced as 250 watt daytime, 250 watt nighttime, before the 1950s, up until like the 1950s. Class D, or back then they were known as Class 4 stations, Class C, or then known as Class 4, were 250 watts, non-directional, day and night. And then the FCC would eventually allow them to go to a 1 kilowatt day, 250 at night. And then around, 1984, I think it was, they were allowed to go to 1 kW at night. So 1 kilowatt, unlimited, non-directional, on the graveyard channels, 1230, 1240, those frequencies. So, that's the other thing that I'm looking at, is how are they going to, how's that going to work? And if you're not directly in a market, in an area where that graveyard channel is, you tune at 1230 or 1240 at night, it's going to be a complete hodgepodge of what you hear. If that's just, how much is this digital? And what's even going to be worse is digital on digital interference. Now, at least with FM, you kind of have a capture effect. You don't have that with AM. I mean, AM, if there are two signals, if there are two analog signals, one could literally come right on top of the other and you hear them both. There is no capture effect in AM. How is this going to work when there's two digital signals colliding with each other on sky, and one's coming in on skywave, and one, you're fringing on, you're fringing ground wave. You're just, you're just inside that interference zone. How is the radio going to even be able to decode that? I don't think it will. It's not going to be able to tell the two signals apart, I don't think. This is going to be very interesting. Also, too, the power levels. We're hearing about, like in analog world, we have a carrier power. We have 50 kilowatt stations, 50 kilowatt station. How is this going to work how is the regulation going to work in AM? Is it going to be RMS power? Is it going to be 50 kW RMS, or is it going to be 50 kW carrier? Because if it's 50 kW carrier, then it might as well be about 200,000 watts. I mean, we're going back to WLW here again if we keep this up. So, I still feel like that the rule that they're proposing, at least in the NPRM, is not complete enough. I still feel that there's a lot of work that needs to be done on this. This should have not gone to an NPRM. It should have gone to a notice of inquiry. Because the commission even admits that the NRSC has not even tested this. Some of the stuff has not even been tested, and they want to approve this. This is, this is what we're dealing with. And I know this doesn't directly relate to LPFM, but it does. It is an issue that is near and dear to many folks who follow REC, who follow, and I mean, I admit I'm kind of a hobbyist myself. I have been for many years. And so, yeah, these kinds of subjects are near and dear to me because, especially in the case of, where this does come into play is if we can ever get to a point where, if HD is such this great thing, and we get all these radios out there that can decode HD and analog, and get this huge penetration, and to the point of where the AM broadcasters, the cluster owners, those with both AM and FM stations in the same market, will move their AM stations to HD subchannels, kind of like what they're doing in Los Angeles right now. And that way, we can free up all these translators, make that spectrum available for community broadcasting, give the 250 watts, maybe get us to the point of where community stations that are true community stations that meet certain public service requirements, at the bare minimum participating in the annual EAS test, should be allowed to have primary service of some kind. Of course, that's going to take an act of Congress, and that's also going to need to allow some translators in similar situations to go primary. So, I mean, there is a concept for primary service. It just has to be done within the statute. It has to be fair. There's AM translator people that want their translators to become primary. The Local Community Radio Act is stopping that right now. So, again, these are just some of the things that are on my mind today. But I wanted to quickly, I just wanted to originally touch base on the LMS issue. And that was my original reason for this short video today, was to let you know that there's delays in processing right now due to a lot of systems and back-end problems right now with the LMS system. LMS applications in all the FM services are being delayed right now because of this problem. Now, I want to point out this is not impacting renewals, because the renewals don't use this new functionality that was just put into LMS. Notice how your renewal is against your FRN, not against your facility per se. When you go in to do a renewal, you're doing it on your on your facility, but it's done differently. The way you go in, you're going on the facility. You're not going on the authorized facility. You're not going on the authorization. You're going on kind of like an over the top kind of thing. I mean that's no different than CDVS. Technically it's no different than CDVS. So, be patient with staff. Expect longer delays on modification applications and on license to cover applications. If you have something that is being done to remediate interference, or you're up against a statutory deadline, and file the application just like you normally would. Make sure you file it on time. Contact me. LPFM@recnet.com. So that way I can evaluate it and see what we need to do to get it through to staff. All right. Please let me be the gatekeeper on these, because I don't want to bombard staff unnecessarily. All right. With that, we got a Radio for People call today at 2 o'clock that I've got to go to. So I'm going to say take care. Joy asks about daytime stations. Well, daytime stations go off the air at night. So this is not going to be an issue for them if they're daytime. If they're daytime only now, they're going to be daytime only after this. So there's no impact, and there's really no issues with daytime AM stations on digital. And actually, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I've heard the daytime AM stations. I've heard WWFD. And I'll tell you, the overall experience is wow. I've also heard other hybrid AM HD stations, and I'll tell you, there's a huge difference between HD AM and analog AM. I mean, much more of a difference than, say, analog FM versus HD FM. Yeah, I'm kind of on the HD bandwagon. So, I'm one of these people that would like to see it more deployed. And unfortunately, the equipment is very expensive. And our 100-watt power limits on LPFM, unless you're in a foothills situation, probably wouldn't work out too well for you. It wouldn't be too viable. But that's why we need LP250 and perhaps some increases in the digital subcarrier power again. This is an issue that I'm still in the learning phase on. But, I am kind of excited about HD radio myself. And I do feel that it is one thing that could possibly save the whole industry. And, when you have kids out there right now that don't even know what a radio is, we need to introduce them to that greatest app that's always been there. It's been there for 100 years. It's called radio. All right, with that, thanks for watching, and there'll be no live shot this week because of the holiday. We'll be back a week from Thursday, usual time, 11 o'clock Eastern, and we'll see you then. The week after, we'll be in Washington D.C. for the FCC meeting. So that means next Thursday will be the 5th of November, and we'll be here for a live shot here on November 5th. On December 5th. And then 1 week later, I'll be in DC for the commission meeting, which has MB docket 19-3. I will be doing ex partes while I'm there, so I will be talking to staff in regards to LP250. LP250 and public notices are front and center on this ex parte because we want to get these through and get some filing windows going. All right, until then, thanks for watching.